Welcome back to another episode of Living in Denver. As always, my name is Adam, and I'm really excited. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you guys 5 really important tips if you're considering a new construction home, often called a new build. So new builds are becoming a lot larger segment of the housing inventory in Denver. In 2024, it was almost 30%. So this is definitely something you should at least be aware of and keep your eye on if you are considering moving here to Denver, Colorado. So today I'm going to be sharing with you guys 5 really important tips all about new builds. You definitely don't want to miss the last thing I'm going to be sharing at the end of the video, some things you definitely want to avoid if you are going to buy a new build. So excited to share all of this info with you guys today. Stay tuned. All right, so as I said, today's going to be all about new builds, new construction homes here in Denver, Colorado in 2025. So what I want to start with in this video is first sharing with you guys 5 areas around Denver that I personally think are some of the best if new builds are on your radar. I've picked some different areas all around Denver, and I'm going to go into these just very briefly. I have a lot more content on all 5 of these areas in other videos on my YouTube channel. So if you guys have any of these that are really piquing your interest, go to my channel. You can scroll down, and even in the playlist, new construction homes, you can actually find different video tours I've done of a lot of these different areas, and I'm going to share with you. But today, again, 5 areas I think are definitely worth looking at if you are considering new construction. And number 1 is going to be Reunion. So Reunion is an area that has really transformed over the last, I'd say 10 years. I'm a Colorado native. I've been here my whole life, and this really wasn't an area that even existed when I was a kid. So in the last, I'd say 10 years, it's really consistently been growing and growing and growing. But I would say it really probably put itself on the map here in Denver about 15 years ago. But Reunion is great. I think Reunion is an area that I think for people that maybe are wanting to keep a budget for their home, maybe in that $400,000 to $600,000 range, there's a lot more options here. It's also an area that I think has a ton of potential for future growth. So it's an area that is always seeing, new developments coming up in that surrounding area, which is bringing in lots of new businesses, restaurants, parks, bars, you name it. There's just a lot of great stuff that comes with a brand new community like Reunion. Also, I think Reunion is great if you are somebody that might have to travel quite a bit, because it does have very direct, easy access to the Denver International Airport. It's also pretty close to downtown Denver. It just has a good centralized, location. It's a little bit north of downtown Denver, but it's still in an area that really does have good accessibility no matter where you're trying to get to, especially with I-25 just giving you that direct north-south access to get pretty much anywhere you need to go within Denver. So now the second place for new construction homes is actually the complete opposite part of Denver, all the way down in southwest Littleton, so the southwest corner of the Denver metro area. And this is an area called Sterling Ranch. And I wanted to put this one on my top 5 list because it's one of my favorites. So I've shown a lot of clients homes in this area, and it's just a spot that I personally really like. It's a little bit further away, so if you are needing to get to the airport, as an example, it's going to be a little bit longer of a commute in comparison to Reunion. But I think it is one of the most beautiful parts of Denver. You're right up against the really pretty part of the western slope, going up to the Rocky Mountains. And you also have really pretty red rock formations in the areas just around Sterling Ranch. One of my favorites is an area called Roxborough. If you guys are golfers, my favorite golf course in Colorado, it's called Arrowhead. Definitely put that on your bucket list if you're a golfer. It has a lot of these really cool red rock formations. But Sterling Ranch, when it comes to a new build community, I just love it because it is just in this great part of the state in the city of Denver. Just very nice, more relaxed feel, really pretty, more scenic than some of the other areas in my opinion. And I just think it's in an earlier stage of development. They have, I think, about 10 years left on this master planned community that they're building at the moment. So a lot of new stuff still to come. And some of my favorite new builders are also down in this area. And some of these builders are, they're nationwide, and they're kind of in all of these 5 areas that I'm sharing with you. but one of them is Richmond Homes. And I've actually done some really thorough video tours of Richmond Homes, model homes in some of these areas. So again, check out my YouTube channel, a lot of great info there. All right, so my third area that I think is worth putting on the radar, and I put this one on here because it's not as well known, and that's because there aren't as many big new builders in this specific area, but it's gonna be in Broomfield, and it's called Grandview at Interlaken. So this is right next to the Metro Airport. I actually am an aspiring pilot, and I've actually taken a bunch of flying lessons out of this this Metro area. Rocky Mountain Metro is actually the name of the airport. But there's just a ton of just fun activity going on with just watching all these cool planes flying over. And, you know, it's not the big, loud, big United jets. It's the smaller, more hobby pilots, as well as some smaller commercial flights. But I just love this area specifically because it is smack dab in the middle between Boulder and Denver. So similar to Sterling Ranch on that last community that I just shared with you, this one also has a little bit more of that kind of laid back just feel where you have, a lot of great views of the mountains and a lot of outdoor, recreational opportunities just at your footsteps. So being so close to Boulder, you're only about a 15-minute drive to get right down into downtown Boulder and enjoy all the Flatirons and just all the great stuff that Boulder has to offer. Yet you also are only about a 15 to 20-minute drive going the other way towards Denver. So I just think for people that are outdoor enthusiasts, or maybe you happen to have a job where you work or commute to Boulder or that area, that northwest part of Denver, this is a great spot because you have a really good accessibility and some great views of Boulder. And again, just the entire entry to the Rocky Mountains with views all the way from Estes Park all the way down south to, kind of that golden area. You can kind of see this very wide span of mountain range, which I love. All right, and then the fourth new construction, new build community that I think is definitely looking into is going to be Central Park, which is formerly Stapleton. So Stapleton Airport was our main airport here in Denver, and about 30 years ago, that got eventually kind of scraped, and the developers realized that Denver was a very popular place. A lot of people were moving here, and we needed a more robust airport really to handle the traffic and also just to put us on the map and have a lot more opportunity for tourism in the future. So Stapleton was scraped. They basically stopped having that be the airport, and they built Denver International Airport, which is fairly close, probably about a 15-minute drive north of here. But Stapleton, also known and now as Central Park, is a great area for new builds, and I love this area. I think this is a spot that has a very diverse selection of homes. You could find, homes in that 400 range, but you can also find homes that are over $1 million, and it just has, a little bit of something for everybody. Also, where the old Stapleton Air Traffic Control Tower, it's now this really cool restaurant, bar, a lot of fun, just social activities to do in the Central Park area. And if you are somebody that likes the more urban lifestyle and likes going into Denver and to like the downtown areas, or maybe exploring Wash Park, maybe Platt Park, which is also known as South Pearl Street, some really cool areas in Denver are very easily accessible if you live in this Central Park Stapleton area. So definitely another one to put on your radar. And then number 5, last but not least, Green Valley Ranch. And Green Valley Ranch, kind of fits into the same mold as some of these other areas that I've shared with you. So there are quite a bit of new builds in this area that's just north of downtown Denver and a little bit east. So, this is an area that's seeing a ton of just growth and development. Commerce City, also Aurora, and then also going even further up into like Reunion and Brighton. So there's just this kind of entire area in that northeast and just north part of Denver, north of downtown Denver, that has a ton of new builds and these new construction communities. So this last one that I want to share with you, Green Valley Ranch, similar to what I said about Central Park, I just think it has a great accessibility both to the airport as well as to downtown Denver, and it just has a lot of options that for a lot of people, they feel that they're more affordable. A lot of home options in that 400,000 range. There's also a few more options here for condos. So instead of single family homes, townhomes and condos, and the condos can tend to be a little bit on the lower price point. However, and I'm going to share this with you guys later in the video, there are some hidden costs, such as a lot of times higher HOA fees. So we'll talk more about that here in a little bit, but those are just 5 areas that I think are worth putting on your radar if you are considering new builds, new construction homes. Before we move on to the other 4 points I want to share with you guys, I do also want to remind you guys, I am a licensed realtor here in Denver, Colorado. I'm a 40+ year Colorado native, and I have a lot of customers that are really curious about new builds. And I can put them onto different types of home searches just to start sharing with them what actually is available at the moment and also what's coming up in the future. Unlike a typical regular single family home or not a single family home necessarily, but just a home that you're looking for on Zillow, on the ILS, an internet listing site like Zillow, what's going to happen is you're really only going to see homes that are either currently for sale or what's called coming soon, meaning that they're going to hit the market in the next 7 days. What that doesn't account for is a lot of these new builds, these new construction homes, where the lead time for them to actually get their certificate of occupancy and then be on the market for sale, that might not be for a little bit further out. Yet, if you're only looking on Zillow, you're never going to see these. So that's why it's so important to reach out to a realtor like myself, and I can put you on a lot more customized searches and really explain more about these new build communities and not just what's available today, but also what's available in the coming months, depending on what your timeline is. It's also super important with new builds, and I'll talk again about this at the end of the video, but understanding how you're in the sales center, you're looking at their model home, and you're wowed and it looks amazing, not taking into account where the lot of your physical home that you're going to buy might be located. So that's why it's so important to really go deeper than just looking on Zillow when it comes to new construction homes, because you might be looking at a listing online that looks fantastic and the backyard looks amazing. It looks out at this beautiful open space and the mountains behind it. And then you get out here and you look at the actual, unit that's for sale, and it's got 3 other homes right behind it and no views at all. And it's just kind of crammed in. Maybe it's the last home that's available in this little subdivision that they're trying to sell before moving on and building the next phase. So anyways, just make sure you guys are really understanding that there is more to it than just Zillow. And again, just want to remind you to reach out. My phone number, email, all that info is down below. Reach out. I would love just to connect with you guys and share more specifics with you. And before we move on, one last shameless plug. I really want to give you guys a free copy. I have this 42-page guide to new construction. It goes through everything from the full build type scenario where you're picking out, everything from the flooring to the countertops, doing the entire full service new construction type spec home almost build, to just what's more common where you're just picking out maybe a few, final touches, such as, maybe picking out what kind of backsplash is going to be in the bathrooms, or maybe it's not even to that level. Maybe it's just talking to the builders about whether or not you want to add some additional premiums to your unit before they finish yours. Maybe adding a fireplace, or maybe it's just a higher level of countertop in the kitchen. Maybe it's a thicker piece of the quartz instead of maybe a cheaper type. So little questions like that sometimes can come up if you're buying a home that's new construction, but you're getting in at a later phase. So anyways, just wanted to share that, with you guys that, I have a really great guide. It's completely for free, and feel free to download it down below. The link is there. And if you have any questions when you go through it, feel free to reach out. All right, so the second point I wanted to talk to you guys about when it comes to new construction is this understanding that it's not just single family homes that are new builds. There's a lot of condos, and even more, I would say, recently that I'm starting to see hitting the market. And these are great options for people that are potentially on a tighter budget where they at least don't want to spend as much on their home. If that might be you, this could be a great option. There's definitely pros and cons to everything. I would say a couple pros to a condo. One would be safety. And when I mean safety, that's something that I always try and avoid talking too much about in my videos because everybody has a different perspective on what that means. But what I mean when I'm saying that is, let's just say that you are, maybe it's you and a spouse that are living in this condo, and one of you travels a lot for work. And when you do, you kind of worry about the other person at home alone. When you're in a condo, you have more people just kind of near you, kind of keeping an eye on things. Also, maybe you're both leaving for a while and traveling a lot. With a condo, you're a lot more easily able to just kind of lock the door and leave and not worry about as much stuff. You don't have a big yard to take care of, so there's a lot less maintenance. As far as cons, one though will definitely be that you're going to have additional expenses outside of just the cost of the home. And the big one here is always going to be an HOA. And the HOA is just going to cover certain things that are, more communal areas of the property. Maybe you guys have a clubhouse, maybe there's a nice dog park. So there's benefits to this, but with those comes an additional monthly cost. And if you are on a budget and you're really just trying to be frugal, or at least be very mindful of your total monthly expenses to budget for that, you definitely need to always be thinking about this in addition to what you're paying for the condo. One of my favorites right now is that Grand View at Interlochen that I shared as one of my 5 favorite areas right now in Denver. So definitely check that area out. I have a whole separate video where I do a video walkthrough of one of their 2-bedroom, 2-bath condos. I had some clients from YouTube. Actually, I just helped a couple weeks ago. They flew out here from California, and we actually took a look at a couple of these. Again, I've actually sold one of these to another client too. So I love Interlochen at I love Grand View at Interlochen, and definitely think that's an area that you might want to check out if condos are something that is important to you. All right, so my third point about new builds is just going to be talking about some other of the benefits of new construction. So one of them is definitely going to be for any of you guys that are really big on just being energy conscious, or more so even green conscious, meaning that you really value the environment. You want to be as energy efficient as possible. When you're buying a new build, this is definitely going to be something that you're going to be benefiting from, and that's partially because nowadays with new construction, the restrictions, or should I say the requirements to build, have a lot more in them, which is requiring homes to be built with more energy efficiency. I actually used to live up in Aspen for a long time, and I built homes up there. And up there we had what's known as LEED certified, LEED certified. And this was just a really high level of certification that homes had to acquire in order to get approval to be built, but also to get their certificate of occupancy. So that's gone across the entire state at this point. So you're going to find some of these benefits, some of these features in your homes if you do buy a new build. And that could be a fairly significant difference when you're comparing maybe 2 different options. Maybe you're looking at buying a home that was built in the 1940s and it's got old original mechanical systems and maybe some single pane windows that don't, hold in the heat very well in the winter and don't keep out the heat in the summertime. And then also, things like the boilers and just all kinds of stuff. Looking at a home like that versus a brand new construction home that has a lot higher requirements just to get their certificate of occupancy, which is going to benefit you by lower monthly utility bills and just benefiting from this newer type of home. So that's one benefit of new construction. I would say another big one, in my opinion, is going to be just having everything being brand new and really fitting the style and the demand that exists in today's buyer's market. A lot of people today really value having the high ceilings, more of an open floor plan, and just a different overall layout of the home. And that is something that you really can't recreate if you buy an older home. It's going to be so costly to renovate an existing home to create that style of home. And in a lot of cases, it's just impossible without scraping that old home and building something new, which would then be a new build, just like what we're talking about. But the high ceilings, the more open floor plan, and just some of these other things that are becoming really popular nowadays. One of these would be a main floor primary. So primary is another word for master bedroom. So having that primary bedroom on the main level is very popular nowadays. That's something you're going to be finding a lot more often with new builds, as well as understanding how little things that don't seem maybe like that big of a deal can really be a deciding factor for a lot of buyers. And one of these would be where the laundry is located. So where the washer dryer closet, or maybe even a full washer dryer utility room, is located. All homes in the past, almost 99% of them always had this located just directly off of the garage. If it was a home with an attached garage, you'd kind of go from your living room into your laundry room or your mud room and then go into your garage. That's always been kind of the norm for years and years and years. With new builds, and I totally agree with this, instead of having it there, they put it up where all the bedrooms are, usually located just outside of the primary or that master bedroom. And it's just so much more convenient and easy to access. And I think this is just one of these little things that you don't really think about at the time until you have a home that has this location for your laundry. And then you'll never go back. You're like, man, this is so much better. So this is just another example of how with new builds, they have taken into account a lot of these really popular and highly in-demand features of homes that not only will matter to you as you enjoy the home, but also when it comes time to sell it, you just have features in your home that are hopefully going to be continuing to be popular, and you'll just be that much more ahead of maybe older homes when you're competing to try and sell your home for top dollar. So definitely a couple benefits when it comes to new builds. So number 4, I just want to share with you guys a couple tips when it comes to buying a new construction home. And the first one, believe it or not, this is not just a plug for me as a realtor, but you really should consider having representation, meaning having a realtor like myself be your representation as a buyer's agent when you purchase the home. So new builds are a little bit different. And what I mean by this is instead of a lot of times, finding a realtor and talking to them ahead of time and then going out and looking at homes, new construction communities are really big on having sales offices and having big balloons and wavy, those little men that are waving in the air to just catch your attention and now open, come on in and see our model home. And what happens is a lot of people will do this and they'll show some interest and they'll basically lock themselves in where they're no longer able to be represented because of that very first time that they've gone into the sales office. When you go in that first time, it's just very important to mention to the sales office that you do have representation. And even if you don't, it's okay just to say that you do and just say, use my name as an example. Even if you don't have a buyer agency agreement, which is what's required by law now for all realtors to have with buyers before going in and looking at homes, you should definitely, really understand the value of having representation, especially because with new builds, the builder of these new construction homes is almost always going to be the one paying for that commission for the buyer's agent. It's very, very rare. In fact, I have never seen it where the buyer has had to pay the commission of their buyer's agent in a new build home. So this is just something that is, I think, sometimes overlooked, and it's just so important to have that representation. So you have somebody really looking out for nobody else but you. Your fiduciary obligation of just making sure you guys are getting the best value possible, making sure that just everything is correctly done. There's no, loopholes or there's no, concerns that you're going to run into a year from now. Just really having your back, and it doesn't cost you, in most cases, it doesn't cost you anything. So definitely make sure you guys are aware of that. And then one other tip when it comes to new builds, new construction homes, is really understanding that there are a lot of buyer incentives that exist with new builds. So when you're looking at, for example, 2 different options, you're looking at a new build and you're looking at an older resale home. When you're getting pre-qualified, so you're getting a pre-approval for your loan amount that you're going to be able to, secure and be able to use to pay for this home if you are going to be getting a loan. In that case, what happens is a lot of times these new builds are going to be able to offer a more attractive and a lot of times significantly lower percentage rate on that loan. And that's why so many people are kind of steering towards these new construction homes nowadays. Instead of paying, for example, right now we're at about 7% for the interest rate on a traditional loan. With new builds, a lot of times they're able to give you a lower rate through what's known as a 2-1 buy down, or sometimes they'll even offer a completely fixed lower rate. And they're able to do this by they're buying these points down. They've accounted for this as part of their budget when they're building these new construction homes as kind of like a marketing expense in a way. It's an incentive to really steer some of these buyers towards new builds instead of buying an older resale home. So if you're maybe right now struggling with just getting that pre-approval and the amount you're getting pre-approved for is lower than what you're expecting, you might be surprised what you could still get approved for if you went a different route and used the in-house lender with one of these new construction home builders. So something that we can talk through in a lot more detail later on if you're interested in this, but I definitely think it's important to at least realize this and not get too if you are somebody that's maybe right now getting to the point where you're not qualifying for what you were hoping to. And then last but not least, tip number 5, this is what I teased you with at the beginning of the video, just some tips that are really important to keep in mind that are specific to new construction homes. So share a couple with you guys. I got a lot more that I can share with you too. So if you do want to go a little bit more in depth on this, I just would love to just connect with you guys. So down below, you guys are going to see my email, my phone number. Shoot me a text. email, give me a call, whatever's most convenient. But what I do for a lot of my friends, customers, viewers like yourselves on YouTube is just schedule a 30-minute, it's a free, just a real estate strategy call. Just learning a little bit more about you and hopefully can provide some different ways that you can kind of move forward. And whether it's today, tomorrow, or maybe you're not seriously moving for a year or two, it doesn't matter. Still would love to connect and just share some value to you for where you are today and help you guys, kind of pursue what makes the most sense. So a couple tips though. First one is going to be about taxes. So when it comes to property taxes in Colorado, this can range significantly. I've seen it as low as about 0.4, so a little bit under 0.5%. And this is off of the sales price of the home. So let's say you buy a home for $500,000. You might be seeing a property tax at that 0.4, somewhere in the, that's going to be, roughly $2,200 for the year for the taxes. If you go into a new build community, a lot of times you're going to find significantly higher property taxes. This is a lot of times just because these are areas that have not been fully developed yet. So there's additional costs through, metro tax districts, and they're basically just trying to help pay for all the other stuff that has to happen in order for these new builds, these communities to be successful. The street infrastructure, just some of the different areas around there with the navigating into and out of these new build communities, just the different roads and stoplights and sidewalks and all kinds of stuff. So with all of this, there's a fee, and that goes into being collected by the taxpayers that buy in these areas. So I've seen, the tax rate instead of 0.4%, I've seen some in these new build communities as high as like 1.5. Sterling Ranch down south that I mentioned is one of my favorite areas. I think they're at like 1.4, 1.5. So, that can be a significant difference in dollar amount when you're looking again into budgeting and just what you really want to spend, not just on the price of your home, but also some of these other expenses. So, I talked about how condos a lot of times have HOAs. Even single family homes in some of these communities also have an HOA. It's usually not as much, but it can still exist. I'd say average maybe about $100 a month. So long-winded way to let you know that property taxes are something that you definitely want to take into account before getting too far down the line with putting an offer on a new build home. All right, and then before I share one last tip, again, guys, get a free copy of that new construction guide. I'll put the link again down below. This has so much more valuable tips, just like what I'm sharing with you right now, that I think are really, really important to also take into consideration. So make sure you guys get a free copy of that. The link's down below. If you have any questions, again, let's reach out, let's chat. But this last tip I want to share with you is about what oftentimes is not included when you buy a new build. So there's 4 things that I think are the most commonly not known about and oftentimes missed. It is not even on buyers' radars until they get, within a couple weeks of closing, and then they're like, oh my gosh, this is not included. This is not included. So the 4 things, number 1, it's going to be a refrigerator. Oftentimes, new builds will not come with a refrigerator. They will come with a stove. That's part of the habitability with getting their certificate of occupancy, but for some reason, a refrigerator is not. So this is also, though, something that can be negotiated. If you have a buyer's agent representing you, this is when we come into being more valuable, where we can really start to make sure you're getting all of these things included at no additional cost. So again, first one is refrigerator. The second one is actually window coverings. So oftentimes you'll go into a model home, you'll see this beautiful model home with, staged furniture and really nice window coverings and just look like a legitimate home. Then you actually go into your home and there's no window coverings, and this can be a very expensive, thing that is not accounted for in your budget. I've seen some of the really nice Anderson window coverings that, could be as much as $15,000 or $20,000 for, a 2,500 square foot home. Obviously, there's a lot of more reasonable price points for window coverings, but just so you're aware, this is oftentimes also not included. The third thing that often is not included, and this one's a little bit more expected for a lot of us, but it's a washer and dryer. So the way this one is kind of unique is oftentimes you'll see a washer dryer in the model unit, but also another great negotiation tactic, especially if we're looking at purchasing a home towards the end of the year. At the end of the year, a lot of these builders have, just different goals they're trying to meet, where they need to just get rid of whatever inventory they have remaining And oftentimes these homes that are remaining are sometimes the model homes or homes that already have a washer dryer in them staged. So this could be a great way just to get them to include that with the price that we're already paying for the home. So washer dryer, this is something again that isn't, in my opinion, as expected, but still can cost, $2,000 to $3,000 for the pair if you're getting a nice set of a washer and a dryer. So definitely keep that one in mind. And then last but not least, the fourth thing that is, again, often not included is the rear of the home's landscaping. So when I say landscaping, what is typically common with a lot of these new builds is all you'll have in the backyard, if you have a fenced in, private backyard, you'll have the irrigation lines typically installed, but you might not even have sod. It might just be dirt. Or what's happening now, what you'll find in a lot of new build communities is they're really steering more and more towards xeriscaping. Xeriscaping is just types of landscaping that is not reliant as much on water. Since water is, a resource that is very limited kind of everywhere now in the country, even here in Colorado, they're trying to limit how much water usage is needed for the rear landscaping, but it's often you'll buy a new construction home and you'll have to kind of plan out and do the backyard how you best want it to look. So, that could also, again, be a significant expense depending on what goals you have with your backyard and if you want to have, really nice sod or maybe some other additional landscaping. Just make sure you guys are keeping that also on your radar for another expense that might not be something that you're expecting. All right, so I think we went through a lot today, but obviously there's a lot more still to share when it comes to new builds. This was just the tip of the iceberg. So one last time, that 42-page new construction guide that I keep talking about, free copy. Make sure you guys get one, links down below. But more importantly, just want to once again thank you for watching this video, and I'm really enjoying connecting with more and more of you. I love all of the connections that I'm making on this YouTube channel and viewers just like yourselves, scheduling that 30-minute real estate strategy call and just learning a little bit more about you guys. So really looking forward to connecting with you guys. My phone number, email, all that info is down below. So again, just feel free to reach out even if you're not seriously considering moving here for another year or two, or maybe you're still on the fence on whether or not Denver's the right spot. Whatever it may be, I'd love to still connect with you. So make sure you guys do that. And until next week, I look forward to sharing an all new episode of Living in Denver with you. I'll see you then.